Okay, Rabbi Sai, let's begin the Siyata Dishmaya. Yesterday we went through the sugya of combing hair and the halachas that are negated to combing hair. Remember, we are discussing at length. Good morning, Chaim. Good morning, Zachariah. We're discussing the sugya of Oikedova Migidulai, Gozez, which is the sugya of removing something that is growing, that has a source of growth, and you are detaching it from its source of growth, obviously causing it to no longer grow, which is the case by hair that's growing, it's the case by skin and nails in most cases, which obviously there will be some exceptions. We'll discuss that. Fruit on a tree is going to be koitza. We'll discuss that Be'ez Hashem a different time. Now we're talking about on the goof of a person, okay? Rabbi Sai, yesterday we ended off with the three conditions of how to have a kosher comb and a kosher combing on Shabbos Kodesh. We said number one, Mr. Brewer tells us you have to have a comb that has soft bristles that move very easily and therefore will not detach a knot because they'll just simply move away, the bristle, when it meets a knot. Condition number two that the Heilige Chofetz Chaim brings us is that you should make sure to brush softly. And condition number three is that you have one that is specifically for Shabbos Kodesh. Yes, Menachem.
This is all like super cool, right? In general, you're not supposed to brush your hair at all on Shabbos.
I don't know. What I said was the halacha. I don't know if it's kula or chumra. That's the halacha. You want to brush your hair, you brush your hair. This is the way to do it. Mishmur doesn't say it's better not to. He says if you brush your hair, this is how you have to do it. You don't have to do boira on Shabbos, right? But if you want to separate, you need to have the three conditions, which we all know at the beginning of Shinya Test. What makes it mutter? What's that?
A guy like me who basically guarantees to lose hair.
If you're using a soft brush, there's no guarantee. If it's a soft enough brush, there is absolutely no guarantee. I will show you a brush that's a soft bristle brush that there's absolutely no guarantee. Can it happen? Theoretically, of course it can happen. That's called Dova She'ein Mischaven. It's not a psikresha, it's not bad, it's going to happen, you're good. No problem, we could do that but a different time. Let's move on. Rabbi said, let's move on to different sugyas in this parasha. Raf, are you with me? Excellent. So, let's go. Yeah? Raf. Okay, so like this, removing lice, for example, is a very common shaila. Here in Eretz Yisrael, by the way, if you're zoiche to live in Eretz Yisrael, which is Taka Schos, Eretz Yisrael nitne be Yisurim, it's not Pashut. Aber, right now, if you're zoiche to live here, it's a gewaldige Schos that we thank the Rabbeinu Shalom every day for have the ability to stay here every day, noch a tug in Eretz Yisrael. It's gewaldig. But one of the problems that you may encounter when you bring up your children over here, Zev, is lice, which is a big problem. I'm not saying it doesn't exist in Chutz La'aretz, it does, but it's a big problem here for sure. And that is kids come home with lice very, very often. And it's a problem. Now, what do you do on Shabbos Kodesh? What do you do on Shabbos Kodesh when you want to remove... We'll take questions soon. Let's go through the sugya. Let's understand what we're talking about. Azaria, Eli, let's go through it. Everyone just calm down. Rabbi Sai, okay? Okay, so when it comes to lice, what is the din when it comes to lice? When you take a child's lice eggs, all lice out. So the person has to know that when you take out the lice or an egg, by the way is stuck often, Tully, more than the lice is stuck. So the way to do that would be is to hold the bottom of the strand of the hair, basically where it's attached to the head, hold the bottom of that, and then slowly with your finger and your nail, take it out slowly. That's the only way really that would be okay to take it out. Otherwise, it's almost a guarantee. One second, I'll take a question in a second. It's almost a guarantee that you're going to take out a hair on Shabbos. It's basically a psikresha. There's no question about it, especially if you're using a lice comb. Lice combs are extremely thin and extremely hard and tight together, and therefore, obviously, using a lice comb Zev will be problematic. You can't do that on Shabbos. But the way to take out the lice would be to simply hold the bottom of the strand and then pull it out very slowly. You had a question?
I had a question.
What about? It's not boira. Shlomo Zalman said it's not boira. He asked the kasha, and he said it's not boira because it's not considered to be a mixture. Okay? How that works? We have to understand hilchos boira, hilchos mixtures. But Shlomo Zalman said it's not boira. Just like when you take a plate with dirt on it, that's not boira also.
Can you use a small, like the thin comb for this? When you said there's a lot before.
That's not going to take out lice.
Good.
No, impossible. Trust me, it's not going to take out the lice. Okay?
Yeah, I trust you.
Moving on, Rabbi Sai. Removing a band-aid. For those English people out there, removing a plaster on Shabbos Kodesh. What is the din? Now, it's you've got to be careful. Hilchos Netilas Yadayim tells us that if your wound, or whatever it is, the cut that you have, requires, Rabbi say, if the cut or the wound requires a band-aid, then it's not a chatzitza for Hilchos Netilas Yadayim. Why that is so? Ayin Hilchos Netilas Yadayim. If it does not require a band-aid, we're worried you may take it off during the Suda, and therefore it's problematic. It could be a chatzitza. So let's discuss a situation of a band-aid that is no problem of a chatzitza. I don't have to take it off because there's a chatzitza for the Netilas Yadayim, but the problem is I want to take it off for other reasons, or maybe it is a chatzitza, right, Zev? And I want to take it off because it's a chatzitza, Zev. So therefore, what are you meant to do on Shabbos if, at the end of the day, when I take off the band-aid, what happens in most places, if I got it on my finger, if I got it on my hand, on a foot, whatever it may be, they may have a problem because it's going to actually remove some of the hairs that are in that area. And it's almost a situation that you're going to be taking off hair. So what are you meant to do? The eitzah would be, is to take some oil and to pour it on the area, and that loosens everything up, and then you're able to take it off slowly in a way that it's not going to be a psik reisha, that hair's going to come off. By the way, just agav, we're not discussing this because we're not learning Hilchos Toifa right now, but if we were learning Toifa, I would tell you that be very careful when you put on a band-aid on Shabbos to make sure that you don't overlap it over itself. It's halacha that unfortunately people don't know. It could be a shaila of an issa d'oraisa if you come a poskim, that if you take a band-aid on your finger, for example, and you wrap it over itself in a way which is very common, right? You got a band-aid and you got a cut on your finger, you cut yourself when you're making the salad, whatever, and you take the band-aid and you wrap it around and around. That means it's overlapped over itself. Now let me ask the Olam Shaila. When you have a band-aid on your finger, yes, it's true that sometimes you may peel it off and remove it, but a lot of times you just take it off, which means the connection that you make when you tie it, when it overlaps, that's toivel. If you do Rambam, that's an issa d'oraisa, because it's never going to come off, and you don't have the heta, by the way, which the Olam are probably going to ask. Do we have the heta from Rashi in Sukkah Lamed Gimel? No, you don't have that heta from Rashi in Sukkah Lamed Gimel. I'm sorry, Ben, you just don't. We're not learning Toifa right now, okay? We're not learning Toifa though, so I don't want to go into the sugya. That's a problem. So that means you can't put it on Shabbos. If it was put on a Friday, then you could take it off. That's okay. Put it on Shabbos. No. Then maybe, but you shouldn't do that. Okay? Rabbi said that's the band-aids. Let's move on. It's the same on Yontif, yeah. Toifa's got the same halachos of Yontif. Okay, let's move on to Rabbi's side to a sugya, gavaldiga sugya. We left off with the shaila yesterday, and that is the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Tes. The Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Mem Tes talks about the following shaila, and that is looking into a mirror on Shabbos Kodesh. Right? So somebody yesterday, and when we finished the shir, we ended off with the shaila, right? So someone was like, you look into a mirror during the week? So obviously he was familiar with Yeridei Simon Kufnun Vov, where the Shulchan Aruch talks about Loi Silbash, which is the halacha of looking into mirror, where the Marana Shulchan Aruch says very clearly, as far as I know, in Yeridei Simon Kufnun Vov, if I'm not mistaken, it's C base, says don't look into a mirror. Chochmas Adam paskins that way. Halacha Namaisa.
If it's a derech, I'm meant to look in the mirror.
So says the Ramah for the Ashkenazim, who don't say slichot during Elul until right before Rosh Hashanah, that for us Ashkenazim, we can look into a mirror. Why? Because that's a normal thing to do. In fact, somebody was once with the Briskerov. It's a Meister show brought down in one of the Sforim that they were with the Briskerov one time, and the Briskerov, before he left the house, checked himself into a mirror. Right? Kama Gedolim, we find some stories of Desta before he went home to see his wife and made sure he looked presentable. But the Briskerov one time looked in the mirror and they said, Rebbe, Silbash, what's going on? So he said, no. Since the derech is that we use it for tefillin, because our tefillin shel roish, we know it's very makbid, learn the Balatanya, Shulchan Aruch Harav, how makbid you have to be, according to everyone, even the Mishnah Berurah, to have it exactly in the middle, to make sure you have two parshas on one side of your head, two parshas on the other side of your head. So Zuk the Briskerov, since at the end of the day, it's the derech to look at the mirror to make sure your tefillin shel roish are in the right place. Mimela, it's no longer, it's a derech of women, it's not a silba shaila, and that's why paskin that it's mutter. And right, so that's the psak of the Ramah, right? Banana Shulchan Aruch, I don't know, but I do know what the Gemara says. Right, let's leave out the silbash for a moment. Let's talk about Shabbos Kodesh. What is the problem on Shabbos to look into a mirror, Tuli? What is the problem with looking into a mirror on Shabbos Kodesh? Can anybody, Shabbos, not Lo Silbash, Shabbos Kodesh, anybody help me?
You're going to pull out all your hair.
Oh, you're going to pull out all your hair. I'm not sure.
You're going to notice something bad.
We're getting there. Okay.
Oh, let's see.
So Rashi, that's okay, that would be very good. That would be a pas pimple, that would be a shaila, makim a patish. What's that? You might do malacha. Which malacha? Duh. Rashi says pshat, Rabbi say like this. Rashi, nobody said it. Finally, you might build a raft. Taka, you might build a raft. Shimon, where have you been? Till you came up with it. No?
Like 20 minutes ago.
Okay, fine. It's okay. Rashi says, very simple. You have to remember that the mirrors that they had Bisman Chazal were not mirrors that were beautifully edged in a way that it's smooth and easy at the edge. Zuk Rashi. Rashi explains Pshat, the problem with looking into a mirror is that the edge of the mirror was very, very sharp. Therefore, a person, some Posh Pshat and Rashi, a person will look at the mirror. He'll see one hair out of place and that will drive him crazy. Right? There are people like that in the world. There are people that go for haircuts, that mamash this one hair please, I need it cut, it's very, very important. I don't get it. Right? Those people that spend an hour and a half in the glasses store checking their glasses. I don't know. I didn't even choose these glasses. But just in case you notice on your glasses. I have Adim. I did not choose these glasses myself. They were chosen. Is that true? Okay, fine. They were born in Flatbush, but it's a whole story, by the way, with the glasses, by the way. Not for now. It's a whole meister with the glasses. Anyway, says Rashi, we're worried that people will come along, will see one hair that's out of place, go to the edge of the mirror, snip it off. Gozez. Mimele Zuk Chazal, don't look into a mirror, because you have that problem. Now, Yultaina, which is true, that nowadays we don't have this problem because Baruch Hashem, we're living in a generation where they smooth off the corners and the sides of the mirror, or many mirrors have a frame to it, obviously, in which case we don't have that problem, which I agree with. But what would happen if, for example, a mirror sometimes cracks in half and you use the other half of it, right? Which happens very often. I've seen it upstairs sometimes. It cracks sometimes. You're not going to chuck it out. You're going to use half of it. And if you use half of it, it's actually got a very sharp edge, which could be, Rabbi Sai, according to the Gemara, which is Pasuk in Shulchan Aruch, that a person has to be careful not to use such a mirror on Shabbos Kodesh. Let me give you a practical example. Chacham ben Sina Shaul writes in Olet Zion Chelek Bet. He writes, where is this Nogeya? He writes a Kabbalah Gazach. I've seen this before, by the way, not by you guys, but there are people out there, right? They're very makbid on everything a bit too much. So they take their knife during the meal on a Shabbos Kodesh, and they check themselves out with the knife. Right? You ever saw that before? La Leinu. We should never know of such a man. Eli's like, what? Right? Read the Sadoris. You got a knife, you check yourself out. Chacham ben Sina Shaul, Paskins alacha lemaisa, asa. You can't look into a knife on Shabbos. Why? It's the same thing as the Gemara. You have a mirror, it's got a sharp edge, you'll look at it, you may see something out of place. Gozez, it's Xera. Zuk Chacham ben Sina Shaul, it's the same thing. I asked Rabbi Zil Orbach the Shaila, and I asked also Rabbi Falk as well, and they actually both told me that it's mutter. They were not worried about looking in a knife. It's not the derech for a person to take his knife that he's about to cut his steak with and start, trimming. I don't think so. So Rabbi Zil Orbach told me it's okay, and Rabbi Falk Zatzal also told me it's okay. I want to tell Rabbi Sada Olam one last thing for today. We've got to move on. By the way, scissors. Scissors, according to this, Chacham ben Sina Shaul talks about it also. That Vadai Osa. To look into, if you have scissors that have a very, very good reflect, like you can use it as a mirror sometimes, you've got to be very, very careful not only not to cut your tzitzis with that, that's a double posture because it's barzal, but just simply to use it on Shabbos, that will be asa. That, according to everyone, will be asa. Even Rabbi Zil told me to be asa, because there is the derech to use scissors to cut. So if you've got something missing, you're just going to give it a cut. Rabbi say one last shaila for today. Right, before we move on to the sugya of nails, which is very important, okay? And that is, Rabbi say, like this, where would this Gemara be very negeya to many more people than we think it is? And that's in the following thing. And this I discuss at length with Rabbi Falk Zatzal in the following way. If you've ever seen a brush that is connected to a mirror, that sometimes you'll have a comb or a brush, that sometimes it's folded up, and you'll unfold it, you'll open it up. You've got on one side, you've got a mirror. On the other side, you've got a comb. I think that mirror would be awesome to look at, even though the edges are very smooth and nice, because it's connected to a brush, and therefore a comb or a brush that's got hard bristles that's also used on Shabbos, you can't use that's connected to a mirror if I'm only using the mirror. Why? Because at the end of the day, what are we saying? It's like say you look into the mirror and you may come to do Gozez. No, over here. You're going to come to, you can look at the mirror, you're going to see something's not in place, right? It's over your masking, right? And then you're going to give it a comb, which can be a shaila of Gozez. Rabbi say tomorrow we're going to try to wrap up the sugya of discussing nails and skin on your lips and skin on your hands, fingers. Join us tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.